Pace is dropped on a new week of soccer down here. John, hear you there. Thanks for hanging out with us as we roll through yet another week of what's going on in the world of soccer for Soccer's Morning Show. John, hear you there. Maddie Cruz on the ones and twos. And as the way things are with our traditional Mondays, it is Reaction Monday. Over, under, on par, doesn't matter on what it's about. And it can be on anything that pops into your head. And it's going to be a very, very busy show this morning, as it always is on Mondays. It is coming up in about 10 minutes as we welcome Jared in. Good morning, Alex. It is Abe and or Garrett from 92.9 The Game. They're going to come by, and they're going to rapid fire their way through about 15 minutes of Atlanta United talk, and then we'll discuss things. That's the official term until 10 o'clock. And then 10 o'clock is when Bart Keeler from the Soccer for US POD joins us. And I'm sure that there will be some Taylor Swift discussion. I know there will be some reffing down here. There's going to be some WNT stuff. Plenty to talk about with Bart, even his beloved Arsenal at 10:30. Drew Dickinson and Maddie will let you know what they thought about Prim and Proper from the last couple of days. We still have Monday Night Football, Crystal Palace and Chelsea, if you really are looking for something to watch. Jarrett, good morning.
Good morning, John.
And so what did I miss? What have I missed? What's stuck in your mind from the weekend?
Oh God.
Kyle Shanahan 0-3, baby.
Kyle Shanahan has had almost 50 points of Super Bowl leads in his life as a coach or offensive coordinator, and he has lost in every game. And at this point, Kyle Shanahan just might be cursed, man. Yeah, he just might be cursed. It's very fun to think about, though, that San Francisco got close again this time. They got to overtime. Oh, man, how'd they get so close? It's amazing. Take a step back and think how amazing it is they got this close after they botched the Trey Lance thing, where they traded draft picks to move up to, the top 5 to draft Trey Lance, who is not him. They botched moving into the top 5 to draft a quarterback. And they somehow came out better than most because Brock Purdy is a legitimate quarterback. Uh-huh. Is he great? I personally don't think he's going to be in the top 5, but that offense fits him perfectly. He does exactly what he needs to do. And Kyle Shanahan still doesn't have a Super Bowl. And yeah, many in Atlanta are not weeping.
No, they're not. I mean, Brock Purdy almost is successful despite Kyle Shanahan and the play that is brought in from the sideline.
Well, I mean, they kept most of the Kansas City pass catchers the San Francisco pass catchers that are problematic. They kept them in check. It was Juwan Jennings who decided to go the hell off.
3rd and Juwan, baby.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot, man. It was a fun game. We did have actual soccer over the weekend that we'll talk about in a bit.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, Maroon 5 is no longer accepted, Ricky.
No.
Because I don't really look, man. I don't care about the halftime show. I really don't. It's never really been my thing. But it is the principle of the matter that you put Maroon 5 in Mercedes-Benz Stadium when Usher was right there.
Mm-hmm.
Are there more Atlanta-centric performers that are more heavily associated with Atlanta you could have gone to? Absolutely. Someone had the idea of letting Lil Jon loose at a Super Bowl halftime show, which was an incredibly risky decision, but it paid off.
A controlled environment.
Yeah. Roller skating was hilarious, though. That I'm sure that set some people down some memories from their childhood, but
yes,
yeah, man, it was it's still an annoying thing that's y'all picked Maroon 5 for Atlanta.
Thanks.
And y'all gave Las Vegas this. Like, y'all owe us another Super Bowl on principle. I don't know who we would put on that Super Bowl, but there's already been discussion about next year's in New Orleans. What do you do? This is this is more of like Ricky speed, I think. Next year's the Super Bowl's in New Orleans. Who do we have to convince for them to let Master P have the Super Bowl and have Juvenile show up? Or is that something that's not allowed?
I think that it's allowed, kind of like having folks in a very controlled environment, like it was yesterday. You make sure that folks are controlled and that they don't overextend their language elements in there. It's like, okay, you're only going to do this part. That's all you got to do. You don't have to go sideways. We'll pay you an inordinate amount of money. Just do that. Don't do anything else. Don't stray. Just do that.
Yeah, just give me somehow give me Juvenile doing a Super Bowl halftime show that has like a 45-second delay for the betterment of society, because you're going to need every second of that 45-second delay. You're gonna need a dump button from hell to get through it all. Give me that
dump segment instead of dump button. That'd be tremendous.
Give them Metallica. Oh man. Okay, give them Metallica, but they can only play songs off of Saint Anger. We're gonna make this as mean as we possibly can.
Yeah.
My favorite description ever was a friend of mine who was a Metallica fan, listening to Saint Anger and telling me, "Wow, whoever this is going to get sued for trying to sound like a really crappy Metallica ripoff." And then he found out it was Metallica. It's like, oh no. Oh man, country act. I mean, I remember when they did the Super Bowl in New Orleans one time. Yeah, they think they did country acts in the past. Yeah, we can make this petty. People still there's still a large contingent of people, I think, who still would love to see who would still love to see like Foo Fighters do it. Oh man, 9 Inch Nails. Trent Reznor come out there in just the most confusing, like, just disturbing performance you can possibly put together.
True, absolutely.
Yeah, do that.
All right, so
let's see how much we can punish New Orleans.
Yes, all right. So we'll bring in Abe. We'll bring in Abe Gordon, the soccer king of Atlanta, not to be confused with Abe Froman, the sausage king of Chicago. Abe, we're trying to screw up New Orleans' halftime show next year for opening kickoff. We're trying to think of the worst thing that you could do, considering Atlanta got totally jobbed and Vegas got Atlanta's halftime show last night. So how do we job New Orleans next year for their halftime show? Make it like Up With People or something like that?
No, this is easy. You just do it with all Atlanta artists again. We already know about the Saints-Falcons rivalry. Ooh. New Orleans has their own rap game. We understand that. But screw them over with just more A-Town hip-hop. I think that'd be the way to go.
Halftime show featuring Bone Crusher.
Yeah.
Who, as Jason mentioned, might be banned from the NFL. We don't know.
Just send iDub over there to the dome over there. We'll have some fun.
Oh, you get like Killer Mike and Big Boy and all of those folks, and you just end up doing it that way. All right, so this is going to be a full house, and we're glad that we do it this way. All right, for the first time making his morning show appearance in this morning show segment, I think we woke him up, by the way. It is Garrett Chapman hanging out. So this is the Fatal Four Way. Is usually in a perfect world. I know that Garrett is kind of like in a commercial break or something. So it literally is going to be like rapid fire with Garrett, so he doesn't get fired. All right. So Garrett, Abe was suggesting how to screw up New Orleans next year for their halftime show and just bring in more Atlanta artists. What do you want to do to screw up New Orleans next year to screw them up for the halftime show?
They should have to have Maroon 5 like we did. That's really and that's the only thing. That's watching that halftime show last night it was just a painful reminder of what we could have had here in Atlanta when the Super Bowl was here, and we got Maroon 5 and a shirtless Adam Levine. But you know what? Usher was fantastic last night. He was awesome.
And you had the Jonesboro High School marching band hanging out there along with Jackson State. So that made a lot of sense. The Jonesboro High School marching band goes to Vegas to help out Usher instead of being a part of the Usher halftime show here in Atlanta. I get it. I understand. All right. Garrett, since you're the new one here, Abe made his debut last week. So we'll bring the new guy in first. 2 matches that happened in Tampa over the last 7 days as we completely and totally try to steer this back into the water. Takeaways from the matchups in Tampa where Atlanta, they had a little bit of hard time getting the engine turned over, but when they did, it was all right.
Yeah, this is a good team. That's really the biggest thing that I took away is that these starters are going to be very good. The number one thing that I wanted to see just throughout the process of the preseason, I wanted to see the way that the depth was built up. And I mean, at the end of the day, like you get a guy like Noah Cobb on the backside, 18 years old, playing at that high of a level. I feel very confident about that back line that really struggled last year. And we know that the attack is going to be very good. I mean, when Thiago Almada and Yorgos Giacomakis comes back from the injury, when they're both back in the fold, even when they're out there, they're pretty good. When you add those two back, they are one of the very best in Major League Soccer. And then the thing is, I wanted to see the defense. And the defense looked so much better, especially with Noah Cobb in there, that looked fresh, looked ready to go. And I'm coming away very pleased with what I saw in the preseason so far.
All right, Jarrett, for Abe, go.
As far as guys who are not starters, Abe, anyone who you're not expecting to see on that starting lineup day one who really stuck out to you?
Yeah, it probably was Noah Cobb, as Garrett mentioned. I don't know what Pineda figures for a role for him this year, but it might have to be increased based on what we saw. He's creative in building long balls into the attack, and I think he's just been very sturdy on the backside. I think he's certainly made his mark. And then, obviously there was no Giacomakis, but I do think Firmino puts himself in pretty good position, and he creates chances. And some he finished, and only one he finished, but some he had the opportunity to do so. So, where's he stack up in terms of off the bench, a little bit of attacking help?
So then, Garrett, let me ask you this. What question or questions do you still have going into the final week of preseason, heading to the match in South Florida against Sporting Kansas City, which we do know will happen, and we will have probably some results, contrary to what we have from other teams who just basically sit there and go, nah, didn't happen.
Don't worry about it. Yeah, I think we're actually going to figure something out from it. Now, who's the keeper? Who's going to be the goalkeeper? I know Josh Cohen started. I think before the broadcast, I was talking to Abe, and I said, all right, we'll figure out who really has the edge in the clubhouse, but determine by who starts that game. And then we don't see Brad Guzan at all. So I think that almost lends itself to the thought that maybe he's going to play the full 90 on Saturday. But at the end of the day, I don't think we're going to know who the starting keeper is until he walks out onto the field against Columbus.
Jarrett, go for it.
And my question for you, Abe, is looking at this roster, let's say you have control of it and you got one spot open. Where's one spot on this roster you would bring in a free agent maybe to try and shore things up?
Ooh. It's still going to be the midfield to me. You could certainly talk me into attack, but still the midfield. I think there's going to be parts of the season we know, with congratulations, by the way, to Thiago Almada in Argentina who qualified for the Olympics. There's going to be stretch without him, most likely towards the middle part of the season. And you have to prepare for that. And obviously you've been building up to that here in training camp in the preseason, but you're probably facing that. So I've been okay with what I've seen, but I wouldn't mind a little bit more in the midfield. And just between how often he gets nicked and injuries and all that stuff, I feel pretty good about what they've got in the back, to be honest. Like Abram, Hernandez, Cobb, Stian Gregerson, like I feel pretty good there. Maybe you could talk me into a wing back, certainly, outside there, but just more of the midfield. I'm always going to take more midfielders.
More midfielders for Abe. So then, Garrett, let me ask you this. What's it been like for you to see the kids? And we know the kids are all right. We know they are. Going up against Birmingham, played the last 30, didn't flinch. And we're seeing them integrated into the lineup. Ashton Gordon, once again, no fear. Noah Cobb hasn't had any fear in his system since he started playing against dudes twice his age in USL Championship. What's it been like for you to see the kids show out the way that they have?
Yeah, I was particularly impressed with Javier Armas too. I mean, he's still very young. I mean, like, look, one of the most important things with the salary cap league that is the MLS is you have to develop your youth, and that just comes from the academy. And I think seeing the way that these guys have played, Caleb Wiley. I mean, we saw what he did last year. Noah Cobb could be that guy this year, and then maybe Javier Armas could be the guy next year. When you're able to supplement your entire roster with just youth talent, it's like the Atlanta Braves. That's a big, big thing. You have to have a great scouting department, and the Five Stripes have done a very good job with that.
Go for it, Jared.
And, hey, this is something I've been harping on this preseason especially after the Memphis game. I wanted to get your thoughts on the fight this team has, because they seem, from my view, they seem scrappier than we've seen in recent years. Like, they seem much more willing to go to war.
And that had to be one of the focuses of the offseason, didn't it? I mean, you talk about how many games you were not able to see out a year ago, cost you playoff position, and ultimately cost you a chance to advance in the playoffs. And that had to be a focus. You have to do a better job of holding on to leads or even winning games in late stages. And that came and went throughout different parts of the season last year. You did have a run where you were winning games late. But certainly more problematic was how many leads you gave up. And so, yeah, you're right. I mean, you bring in a younger crew towards the second half of Memphis 901, trailing by a goal, and they fight their way through it and do get the draw. You're holding on to a slim lead against Birmingham. You held a 2-goal lead here against the Tampa Bay Rowdies, and you saw that out to a clean sheet. It was a little disjointed because of how many changes you had, and guys were kind of still figuring out their positions as they stepped onto the field, but they did see it out. That's going to be so massively important, certainly in home games, but more so if you could find a lead on the road. And I believe, and I know Garrett does as well, this team is going to have a lot of leads on the road. They create so many chances. It's going to be even more so when you have Amada and Giakoumakis in there healthy. They're going to have leads on the road. They're probably going to have first half leads, and you're going to have to find a way to battle through that game in, game out to hold on and come away with 3 points. So that was a focus for sure from Pineda, and it looks like it's playing out that way here in the preseason.
All right, Garrett, how much time do you have left on the clock before you turn into a pumpkin?
Ooh, I got about 60 seconds.
All right, so then Bart Sleesh, give me your 45 seconds on what we've seen from the Polish Hammer so far.
He is one of the most important players, I think, on this team because they need that number 6 who can really win possession back and then maintain it on the backside. They've been trying to replace that since Darlington Nagbe left in 2019, and I don't know if he's necessarily to that level. It's hard to really know. He's only been practicing with the team for about a week and a half or so. Just after he cleared all of the visa issues that when he about coming over here from Europe. But I'm encouraged by what I've seen. He's looked good. He's looked not shaky, but confident on the backside. But there's a little pacing and like little things like the makeup with or the connection with Tristan Muyamba. That's going to be something I need to see, and that needs to develop later on as we get into the regular season. But it was always going to look a little shaky. Like you have a defensive midfielder, but the number one thing with the defensive midfielders, the less you see them, the better. The less you think about them or have to be like, oh, what's he doing? What's going on? They're like an offensive line in football. You know, it's the less you talk about them, the better they are. And I liked what I've seen. He can take it up another level, and I think we're going to see that as the season progresses.
All right, Garrett, right up against the number as you always are. You hit the out
That's
perfectly. All right, get out of here.
Look at you hitting the post. So proud of you.
All right, that's Garrett. And so we're going to have another couple of minutes with Abe here. Jarrett for Abe.
And I want to ask you a similar question about your thoughts, Abe, on Jamal Tiare, because everyone's always looking for a really good backup striker. And does Atlanta have one here?
Yeah, a very interesting performance against Tampa Bay. He looked, the one thing I always want to see from my striker, and it's different for Giakoumakis. He's a different kind of striker. I want to see guys run at defenders. I want to see guys take people on and create their own shot, whether it's one-on-one, whether there's, some trail or stuff like that, but also be open to the pass. I like that TRA is running at guys, but I did think there were a couple of times where one extra touch maybe gets a goal for Atlanta United over the past couple of games. And so he is different than Firmino up top. I think Firmino is a position-based striker. I think TRA is a more creative-based striker. And so depending on the flow of the game, depending on how you feel your goals might come, I do see a lot of value there, but he is fun to watch. There's no doubt about that. And he's not shy for confidence either, which you have to love as a fan to watch guys hopefully run at defenders.
No doubt about it. And we got to see Nicholas Firmino and his imagination, where he got to turn and fire with the left from short range in the matchup on the weekend. Let's see. Saba, do you like DJ Crazy Times with the blonde, or do you like him cutting the emo album right now as a brunette?
I actually like the way he looks right now. It makes it a little bit tougher for me to discern where he is on the field, because you saw that blonde hair and it was pretty obvious. I like the way he looks, and I like the way he's been playing. I mean, you look at the additions made in late last season between Lob Janidze and some of the other guys, Muyamba. I mean, that was a very clear strength for Atlanta United, is who they added late in the season, and only going to continue to increase this year as they play more with their teammates and are fully ingratiated with the team. I think him and Muyamba made a huge difference last year, and I think they're going to continue to do so to start out this season.
All right, last question for you, Jared.
Okay, so let's end on the captain's armband then, because if it's not Brad Guzan in goal, we don't know what it's going to look like till day one, till, like you said, till somebody's walking out there. Who do you put the armband on otherwise?
Yeah, I think it's probably the guy that was wearing it against the Tampa Bay Rowdies. I think Brooks Lennon is the one that makes sense. I'm very close to arguing for Caleb Wiley, by the way, in that situation. But I think due to a little bit more experience, I would hand it to Brooks Lennon. I'm just trying to think, depending on what you view the responsibilities of the captain to be, not just for their team, but in terms of communication with the officials, communication with Pineda throughout and stuff like that. I think Brooks Lennon probably makes sense. What about you guys? Is that who you would go with, or are you looking elsewhere?
Honestly, I'm going to be a massive cop-out and wait until after the matchup at DRVP&K against Sporting, because I think that it's Brad, if Brad is your number one keeper.
Yeah.
And getting into this if-then idea of, okay, if he's not, then Brooks, because then you've got that person who has worn the armband a couple of times, and he's not afraid to sit there and have a conversation with the gentleman with the whistle and go, excuse me, we have something to discuss here. And it's someone who's going to be assertive, and he seems to be a natural with that armband for me.
I'm in the same boat, and I'll tell you, one of the things that solidified it for me recently was the Memphis game, where Brooks was matched up with Marlon Santos on that side of the field. Marlon fouled him like 4 times in 20 seconds. And then there's that sequence where it's a ball down the right-hand side, and Brooks didn't go for the ball. He tried to separate Marlon from his soul as aggressively as he could. That amount of edge was the appropriate amount of edge. And that ability to set the tone while also not getting so heated that he created a bad situation for his team is exactly what I need, especially if you want a team that's going to play with a chip on the shoulder. And that's what Atlanta has, is going to be what they need. That, for me, was one of the solidifying moments of, this guy. This guy's who I want.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I don't love the idea of a goalie wearing the armband anywhere. It's because of the limited amount of communication they can have throughout the flow of a game, because how often is that lead official actually close enough to where Goose or whoever that keeper may be is able to speak with him? I like the fluidity of having Lennon being able to go up to him at any part of the game, not having to wait to make a statement.
And have a keeper run up from inside his own all the way to center circle. Hey, I have a point to make with you, sir.
Yeah.
Abe, cut the promo for us and let everybody know what's going on, how they can catch up with you and GC on a weekly basis, and what you guys do, which I love, by the way. The long pre and the long post. I love it.
Yeah, an hour before and an hour after we hand things off to Mike and Jason, you've got the 5-stripe countdown going on for an hour before game, and then the full-time report for an hour after game on 92.9 The Game or on the Odyssey app. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. We get, after the game, we get some audio from Pineda and some of the players. We'll certainly take questions from the listeners as well. Just generally have some fun, provide some thoughts on what we saw, and preview the next game. And then, the pregame, it goes so fast. There's so much to cover and so much to discuss. And unlike this past week where not much to talk about trialist number 2 or trialist number 77, when we finally get to the season opener against Columbus, we're going to have an actual scouting report for the opponent. So Garrett and I certainly look forward to that as well.
As always, my friend, great to have you here on Mondays, you and Garrett. It's great to catch up with you, and we will catch up with you after Sporting Kansas City, which we know will happen because Atlanta United will post what's going on. We'll talk about teams that aren't doing that coming up in just a little bit. Abe, my friend, thanks as always. We'll catch up with you next week.
I look forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Abe Gordon. So it's Abe and GC. They are the pre and the post. They are your lead in and your lead out every single week. And I love the fact, Jarrett, that 92.9 is giving you the full hour both ways. And I think that if my math is right, I think that this was a point that that Jason and Mike made. This is the only station in the country attached to a flagship where you have the full hour and the full hour at the beginning and the end of the whole thing. 92.9 knows what they got from the absolute beginning, and this is just that next step.
It is, and it's how seriously things need to be taken. Because you look at the way it's covered in other cities. It's good that it's taken there seriously, that you have, a pre and post to cover it, even a radio affiliate, because it's not as consistently carried everywhere. In the same way, the way the team did things the last few games, doing a streaming broadcast. Is it perfect? No, streaming can be tricky still in this year of our Lord 2024. But it's a damn sight better than, what Toronto is doing with the, playing behind closed doors and then not telling people ahead of time, hey, this is like a closed door friendly. We're not going to give a score. Just let people know ahead of time. Like even the twos who play behind closed doors with their friendlies for preseason, at least send you a score afterward. They'll post a couple clips for social.
Yeah.
Like if you want to engage with a fan base, you have to engage with the fan base.
Yeah. So for in this half hour, once again, whatever's on your mind about Atlanta United, we'll get into that. We do have some stupidity down here, and that's more opening kickoff material. It's not the true stupidity that we reference in stupidity down here, but it does apply to opening kickoff material. So 10 o'clock, Bart Keeler is going to join us, and we'll go through all of the national team news. There's going to be a new episode of the Soccer for US POD coming up around lunchtime today, and we'll get into some reffing down here and his beloved Arsenal and probably some Taylor Swift as we get into Prem and Proper, the review with Drew and Maddie at 10:30. We'll go over the weekend. It was a busy weekend for Drew, who called it, by the way. He actually did call the 2-1 final, and it happened with one of his favorite players, the McTominator, getting the game-winning goal for Manchester United. So opening kickoff brought to us by our friends 28 minutes late because, we got guests and we got stuff on Mondays. That's just how this goes. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee. That's your QR code for those of you who are watching either on our YouTube channel, on the Twitch, or on the 280-character app. Don't forget, with our friends from Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com, use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% on your purchase, off your purchase, and they in turn take 10%, reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives, stuff that they have earmarked that is cool for the growth of the game, once again, at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right, so opening kickoff comes to us from a couple of different places. One, you could consider both of them almost domestic, but one's really domestic and one's international. And we say domestic because it has to do with Major League Soccer. Neil Davidson, this past weekend, it was on Saturday night, by the way. And this is what Neil said in his release on the 280-character app. And for those not familiar with Neil is one of the writers for Canadian Press. And here's what Neil was writing. This was his wrap-up for the matchup between Toronto FC and Columbus Crew. And this was in Santa Barbara. I guess they're getting ready for Coachella or something. Toronto FC advises it, quote, cannot share results from today, end quote, on its MLS preseason game with the Columbus Crew in Santa Barbara, California. Apparently, decision was a deal with Columbus. It was a deal with Columbus. We can't tell you what happened today. We can't tell you. We ain't gonna. It's not that we can't. We're just not gonna. I think that's probably more accurate for Toronto FC is that they don't wanna. We struck a deal. John Herdman strikes a deal with Columbus. It's like, hey, maybe let's just let this happen. Let this be a closed door thing. Aren't there sunshine laws in California anyway?
It is the problem. I think as much as people are mad about, not getting a result out of it, not being able to get information, it's the fact that it was said afterward. Like, that's one of the, like, tell people ahead of time. You can put out something on social media ahead of time. Hey, for today's friendly, we actually made a deal with Columbus where both teams will not be sharing a score. That's just, it's an agreement that the clubs made. You don't really have, you can expand on it however much or however little you want, but just be transparent with the fan base about it. That, this is the situation that is coming up. Doing it after the fact is just more annoying, and especially for a fan base in Toronto that is already, a little bit angry and a little bit frustrated by, as he gestures to everything. I think it's just the lack of transparency that is even more so a thing. One thing I am annoyed by, though, is a lot of the discussion that popped up last night is it's this common trope that happens that everybody starts painting with a very broad brush about all of MLS on this. And not every club did that. Like, every club is doing that, is playing behind closed doors and not telling you the score and then telling you afterward that you can't know the score. It was funny, though, that Tom Bogert went and started pulling sources like, I'll find the score out of spite. Just don't paint it with a broad brush, because not every club is being that pig-headed about it.
Yes, and that's something that we all we're very, very. It's Atlanta United and the media.
Not even just Atlanta, like every other clubs are doing fine with all this.
Yeah.
Don't paint a brush on the entire league just because one club decided to be dumb.
Yeah. So, I mean, you had one team being dumb, and I don't think that this is going to be and this is a history of dumb so far, where you had the press conference with Herdman early on in his tenure that he was talking in Herdmanese, and that really didn't go over well with all the media and all that kind of stuff. So I'm anticipating that one of our favorite color your own adventures this year is going to be Toronto FC.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot. To be honest.
Why, yes, it is.
There's going to be a lot to unpack with Toronto. In 2024, we'll see what they look like. We'll see what Herdman looks like. I don't know if we're going to have the strength to deal with Toronto all year with what they've got. Players possibly wanting away. A coach coming in who God only knows what it's going to look like when he's running a club, and especially a club that's been this dysfunctional.
Yes, that is absolutely true. The other one from the weekend, it has to do with our buddy Clinzy. And with Clinzy, you have a situation where he was in charge. He was in charge of the South Korean national team. He was in charge of them through Asia Cup, and they had horseshoes all over the place. They really had horseshoes all over the place, and didn't make it to the last game of Asia Cup, which was won by the host country. Same by AFCON. AFCON is a far better story, by the way, with the Ivory Coast winning Sebastian Haller and what he's been through over the last couple of years. But at the end of runs, traditionally you're up for review. I mean, like at the end of the year, Jarrett, we know folks in businesses all over the place that, you get your end of the year review. And those in the positions of higher, of higher import in whatever business we're talking about, they like to have forms in front of them. They like to sit at a table, perhaps with you there, and go over the evaluation of your work that was given to you by those folks that are above you in the hierarchy at whatever business we're talking about. I mean, widgets, if you're like a senior widget developer, the CEO of the widget company wants to sit down with you and have a couple of other EOs there, not necessarily CEOs, maybe a D, an E, or an F, but they want to be there at the table. They want to talk. They want to sit there. They want to go over your evaluation and, perhaps have some feedback back and forth. And I know that going in today's day and age, we can do things virtually back and forth. We do that here on the show. We have folks in various locations doing various things, and we piece together this thing every single weekday. But Steve Hahn, who writes, he's been a football writer since 2008. He's been all over the place, and he's been a translator of biographies. He's done stuff at FIFA, BBC World, The Guardian, 442 and Goal. So Steve was on top of this situation on the weekend. Jurgen Klinsmann apparently didn't want to hang around for a review. Here's Steve initially. This came early Saturday morning. Jurgen Klinsmann has left Korea to return to his home in sunny Southern California per OSEN. The KFA, the Korean Football Association, will hold a technical committee meeting next week to assess Korea's performance at the Asian Cup. How they do that without the head coach is completely beyond me. And so that was what Steve said initially. Following up this morning, Steve says the KFA already held a meeting amongst technical director and the national team committee chief to discuss their performance, according to Jan Hap, which is one of the wire services over in the Far East. The decision on Klinsmann's future with Korea will be made no later than next week. And sacking Jurgen Klinsmann will cost more than $5 million for the KFA. $5 million. Jurgen Klinsmann, I think he knew the situation. He's just like, if they like me, cool. They're going to keep me. If they don't like me, I'm out. If they like me, they can tell me that they like me from Southern California. Jarrett, you want to talk about someone who, we talk about horseshoes in competition, and apparently now horseshoes with this contract that he has with the Korean Football Association.
He's just going to get a job with somebody else, and you and I both know it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The end.
Yeah. Think about
that's just what's going to be happening.
We were trying to figure out what particular nation would be someone that would be in a position to sit there and bring in a Jurgen Klinsmann.
Well, I'd say Canada, but they don't have the money because he's gonna want to grift, but he's gonna want to grift for a lot of money. Canada doesn't have the money for that.
Yeah.
If they did have a lot of money to throw around, man, Canada and Jurgen Klinsmann would be just two peas in a nuclear pod.
That'd be tremendous. Oh man. Yeah. That would be that. Oh boy. That would be a hoot, to see how we always talk about grift, we always talk about grift and how the grift can continue sometimes. This would be another one of those instances where you would end up with an absolute grift and have it continue for our friend Jurgen Klinsmann. So, there you go. Congratulations, Jurgen Klinsmann. You are possibly, maybe, perhaps, going to end up in another location. You will have made $5 million for not making it all the way to the Asian Cup final. And you're going to end up in another gig. So, and Hutch is probably square right here. Hutch, Saudi League on line one. That might be it. It may not be a national team, but think about a location where the folks aren't hurting for money, or they've got a new infusion of capital, and you want to bring in somebody with a quote-unquote pedigree, and you don't know any better. The Saudi League, to me, Jarrett, seems like that place. I think Hutch is right on.
It might be. I'm sorry, I'm distracted by Dax McCarty sharing that one of his teammates. John, do you drink coffee?
No, I do not. I'm not a coffee person.
No, neither am I. It's okay. Apparently, one of his teammates adds butter to their coffee.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
That's a thing.
No.
And I'm admittedly a little upset by this.
I don't know what to think. Wow. I'm that is wow. Who adds butter?
And the picture, if you see the picture on Dax's account, it's a significant amount of butter. It's not like a small amount. This is like we need you to take off a slice of butter for a country crock commercial in slow motion. It's that much butter.
Oh no. No.
It's just the quantity more so. Like the butter itself, like that's
that's
odd. And yeah, to each their own.
Yeah.
It's a lot of butter.
I admit that I have yet to have breakfast. But you know me, how traditionally it's, for me, it's like kind of like a brunchy kind of deal. But a lot of butter? Seriously? Wow.
That's a lot of butter.
I haven't even seen. I legitimately have not even seen this stuff, and I'm scared. I'm legitimately scared now. Butter in your coffee?
I mean, I'm sure it's a thing in somewhere, but yeah, it's and you learn something new every day.
Okay, so Rich apparently has the explanation.
Okay.
When you add butter to coffee, the fat in the butter breaks down into micelles, or small droplets, which bind to caffeine molecules. Since fat takes longer for your body to process, the fat allows the caffeine to be released more slowly and evenly into your system.
Ooh, interesting. I learned something today.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that I and I wish I had the drop, because I would definitely use it, and I need to add it, because that is definitely the more you know. And Alex says he hadn't tried it, but that's definitely a thing. Dell, bulletproof coffee is a growing diet trend that combines coffee, oil, and butter as a substitute for breakfast. Promoters of the drink claim that it prevents hunger and provides lasting energy and better mental focus. However, there's not yet enough evidence to confirm its potential health benefits or risks. So basically, you got folks doing it, and the FDA hadn't gotten around to sitting there and saying, Surgeon General's warning, bam. Yeah, 4-card, I'm right there with you. Butter and coffee. It definitely isn't you, but
I'll leave it to the coffee drinkers, because I'm not one of them, so I can't speak for them. Part of this is also because my upbringing was as a dad who was a derrick hand on an oil rig in his younger days. He did, and still does, drink his coffee black. Nothing touches it. It is one step removed from road tar. But that's just, it's something new, but it's also it is the quantity more so than the actual substance.
Yeah,
anyway. I'm about done. I'm about to tap out, but I just had to share that with you.
Absolutely.
So, you're welcome.
Okay. Thank you. So let's see. Jarrett's going to usually give us an Irish goodbye. So are you back with us tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So then Jarrett's back with us tomorrow. I'm going to post the link for Dax McCarty's Twitter right there. Pursue the video at your own peril. We're treating it like the 3 and the 4-letter paper. Butter and coffee. Oh my God. And Alex says, anyone who puts Mountain Dew into his or her body needs to sit this conversation out. Right there, brother. Right there. But I will say this, Al. I mean, so 4-card, what you missed is we transitioned from our Atlanta United early discussion into opening kickoff. And we talked about Jurgen Klinsmann, and we talked about matches that happened but didn't with Toronto and Columbus, because Toronto basically said after the fact, no, we're not going to tell you anything. To looking at the video of Dax McCarty scaring us all with teammates having butter in their coffee. And now we are getting the explanation as to why butter is in the coffee. I've never tried coffee. I mean, I've tried coffee, and I never got into the whole thing about flavorless water and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I've stuck with other caffeinated beverages. And it was just, So, yeah, we have posted the video. Watch the video and enjoy it at your own peril. And, yeah, so just yikes. Yikes, and double yikes. So, whew. Yeah, man. That is just no 4-card, and I am right there with you. I'm legitimately, I am I legitimately am right there with you. It ain't happening, and it ain't never going to happen. So, yeah, I mean, as bad enough as it was that, and I appreciate those of you that, and Michael Head, nothing better than good black coffee, but it's got to be good black coffee. I imagine that you are not a domestic coffee drinker. And Emilio, no need for added sugar. Coffee, milk, and 3 stevias for Rich. So, no, I mean, I get it. I mean, coffee for folks is a thing. I completely and totally get it. But for some of us other folks, like I said, it ain't. Brave souls. Brave souls. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, so that's where we are. Once again, we had the 2 goals over the weekend in the matchup against Tampa Bay. We'll go over those really quickly. We discussed Nicholas Firmino and Jamal Tiare as a part of the activity and folks that we were keeping an eye on. And for those of you that watched the matchup on the weekend to see Jason and Mike calling it from Al Lang Stadium in St. Petersburg, obviously Tampa Bay, as was their prerogative, they could say, okay, we only have half of our guys, we're only going to give you names. And that was where the Trial of 77 joke came into play. So Trial of 77 was the best trialist, I will say that, from the trialist family that was transported to St. Petersburg for the weekend. So 2 goals on the board. And here is the first one that we're going to talk about from Nicholas Firmino.
Fires it down the right wing. Here's Brooks Lennon, right side of the 18th. Cross, blocked away, bounces to the touchline and will stay in play. Lennon again, dribbling off the far touchline, sends another cross into the back post, headed into the ground, but down to Mayamba, and then it's taken off his boots. Back to Silva with a deflected cross that's going to bounce to the edge of the 6, not cleared. Now dug out of traffic and slammed into the net for Atlanta's first goal. Tampa could not get the clearance, and it is dug out of traffic and put into the net for Atlanta's first goal in the 53rd minute.
Nick Firmino just waiting that one out, and he waits for the ball to bounce away enough. A great turn once that happens. If you're watching on the stream, keep an eye on Firmino at the top of the 6. It deflects. He's just lurking and waiting. A poor clearance. The turn was great to get that back to his left foot. Just a little pullback with the bottom of his foot.
Fires it down the right wing. Here's Brooks Lennon, right side of the 18. Cross, blocked away, bounces to the touch.
So, of course, it's a Monday, and I forget to take everything out of loop. So that was the first goal on the board for Nicholas Firmino. Great turn, as Jason and Mike mentioned. Nick was kind of pinned in if he wanted to move to his right, just outside the 6. Then, great command, brushes it back behind himself, turns to his left shoulder, puts it in with the left, and that made it 1-0. And then it was 1-0 for a little while. And then in the closing stages, goal number 2 against the Tampa Bay Rowdies, Jamal Tiare.
Doherty then gave it away to Silva. And it's returned to Silva now by Ronald Hernandez. Silva accelerates up to the halfway line. He bumps off of trialist number 30 and continues now into the Tampa end. And here's Silva centering the ball to Firmino at the top of the arc. Ahead to Saba, right side of the box. Saba's crossed to the back post. Headed into the goal. 2-0 Atlanta United. Jamal Tiare on the back post on the finishing end, and Atlanta United has their second goal.
And that's what it was. And you heard on the parabolic microphone, the microphone on the side of the pitch, great ball Saba, Gonzalo Pineda, and it was a great ball from Saba. DJ Crazy Times looks like he's rounding into form. He's finding his rhythm, and he's finding the touch to get balls inside the 6 for the header, and that was goal number 2. So 2-0 against the Trialist family and the Tampa Bay Rowdies. I know that a lot of you guys had comments about that in specific. So let me, as we newsoo review our way back through here, everything. Bart coming up in about 5 minutes. Morning, Alex. Morning, Dell. Morning, Ricky. Morning, Derek. Morning, Fourcard, who ducked out and ducked back in. David, good morning. Newcastle wins the thriller. Maddie will talk about that after 10:30. Atlanta United looks solid. Forrest Lasso is huge and violent. Yes, he is. Forrest Lasso probably should have gotten a yellow card at one point in this match. But Forrest Lasso, we've known Forrest since his time in Charleston with the Battery. And he can be a very large piece of trouble. When you got a Sequoia at the back like Forrest Lasso, Tampa's got a great anchor back there for themselves in USL Championship this year. Seen a lot of Forrest Lasso over the years in Charleston and now with FC Cincinnati, now with Tampa the last handful of seasons. Forrest Lasso, more than a handful of trouble. But yes, huge and violent. Yes, absolutely. Then we got into the halftime show, and we discussed a lot of that. And I'm glad that all of you took that with the humor that it was intended. David explaining Forrest Lasso, rolling into tackles with insane force, going through guys after taking the ball. Scary to see the receiver take that hit. All generally legal plays, but force times mass equals scary. Yes. What is it? Was it force equals mass times acceleration? If I remember my math, F equals M times A in my physics. And when you have a lot of mass with Forrest Lasso and a decent amount of acceleration, the joules per second squared that the force is applied by Forrest Lasso does, in fact, add up to scary. And a lot of you were discussing the Shanahans, as we always do. Ropes was asking if the music tracks are pre-recorded. Depends on the artist. There are times where the artist will be like, nope. And then there are times where, for the sake of making sure that you actually don't have a microphone cutting out on you, then you will have that backup plan, and then they'll go off of the recording, and you'll notice that the camera shots won't be all that tight. In those kinds of situations, you'll see a lot of fan cutaways and things like that. That's what happens when you end up with all of the cutaways and the wide shots and everybody going whoop, whoop, and celebrating. That's because it's on tape, and you're trying to not show the tape and the loop version about what's going on. Yep, and Michael, Super Bowl halftime performers are not paid. They are not. It is the company or Apple that wishes to promote them, so everybody gets to come wandering in, and it's like, here, you get exposure. You get to be at the Super Bowl for 14 or 15 minutes. You get to bring your friends. You ain't getting paid, but you can come back. But great ideas with the halftime show in New Orleans. If you're really looking for a cool one, Tom, got to include Trombone Shorty in there somewhere. Absolutely. Alex was asking for a reanimated Dr. John, maybe a reanimated Al Hurt to have the loop of the Super Bowls go from, the first one back to 59. Metallica on roller skates, fantastic stuff. I love all of this. And, and Dale says, well, AI might be someone who's not with us next year. But yes, Alex, as always, opening the door of the welcome mat. Welcome to the ATLUTD family, to Garrett and Abe. And, I'm trying to see. So Dell is looking for Cohen in net to start things off. Emilio, yes, this is going to be one of the questions. Amada may be gone by the Olympics, flipping and thinking striker, or just back, an attacking midfielder. Probably is what you're looking for. Atlanta United, there was some second and third sourcing, not A-League source, but B and C League sources saying that they were looking at dropping $20 million on a player out of South America. Keep an eye on that. But once again, that was from B and C level sourcing. Emilio, yes, TRA, when Jamal is really Jamal, Shande Silva will be starting before Jamal. Gigi will be starting before Jamal. I think that would be the issue in having TRA out there. But once again, remember, we talk about schedule compression, we talk about all the different competitions. Jamal's going to get reps. No question. May not be in a starting position, because I think your front line is going to be some combination of Shande Silva, Gigi, and Saba. And then when Edwin Mosqueda comes back from injury, which is another couple of weeks, you'll see Mosqueda getting minutes on the left. You'll see Jamal spelling Shande on the left. maybe Gigi in behind. So you're looking at someone, and maybe Nick Firmino, that Swiss Army knife. Nick would be getting some reps up top as well. Tyler Wolf on the left-hand side. So you'll end up with a lot of different things. Del Almada for captain. It might not be just because he may not be around. Looking at Lennon and Emilio agreeing with Abe. So Abe for president. Brooks does have the perfect temperament. Dell will get into Manchester United with Drew when he joins us at 10:30. And yes, I will put some respect on the team that represents the country that purchased the planetary extravaganza last time out. I will put respect on the team, not necessarily the country or the Football Association. But yeah, I think, okay. All right. So Dell has a stopping point. All right. So this is where we'll go. Since it is 10 o'clock and it is where we bring in Bart Keeler for his Monday. I'm gonna let Dell's comment. I'm gonna bring Dell's comment in from about 15 minutes ago. How we were discussing one of your favorite national team managers of all time in this country, and how he is basically now apparently just lounging at home in Southern California, awaiting his decision on whether or not he's going to be staying as the head of the Korean team. And if he's not, he's going to get paid $5 million. Dell, Jurgen is better than
no.
Happy Monday, Bart. As he goes after his coffee and his Arsenal mug. We'll get into Arsenal toward the end of the segment, by the way.
That's the discussion. No.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, if you want a real rant about this, call Jason.
Yeah.
But Jason and I have the same views on Jurgen Klinsmann. He's overrated. The success he had with Germany was not good. I mean, he took a team that went to the semifinals, or he took a team to the semifinals that the tournament before had been to the final, but they were at home. Congratulations. You took a Germany team at home to the congrats.
I tip my hat to you for doing your job.
You did the literal bare minimum, that was expected. Same with Copa America in 2024 or 2016. Excuse me. Wow. In 2016, you took the U.S. to the semifinal. Great, and that standard is the same for Greg. By the way, we're not changing this. We're not moving the goalposts. But Jurgen played ugly soccer. He consistently had players confused, had players unsure of what their roles were on the team. And do not forget that twice in the 2014 cycle, we faced elimination in qualification. The first time in the previous round. So how are you getting close to being eliminated in the semifinal round of World Cup qualification? Stop with this. Absolutely no. Absolutely not. And I do not think Greg is that great of a manager. He was overblown and overhyped because he coached in MLS and won jack squat. But he's American and he, believes that we should pass the ball. That's the qualifications for Greg. Jurgen's qualification was Sunil Gulati liked him. You want to talk about nepotism and favoritism, buddy? Listen, Sunil not only hired the guy because the shiny name that he thought it would be, but then he re-signed him, gave him an extension, and added more duties to him after not even really making it out of, 2010, it was okay, great. We made it out of the group. Stop.
As he drinks from his Arsenal mug and his coffee. By the way, since we're on a coffee run this morning,
butter and coffee, no. I don't do that. I know people do it.
Okay, so
I don't know why.
That was entirely too much butter, by the way, in that picture. By actually,
I think that is the biggest takeaway is that there is a lot of butter.
Yeah, there's a lot of butter,
and it looked like 4 tablespoons of butter.
Well, just take the whole damn stick and just throw it in there with the coffee.
The theory behind it is, what do you put most of the time in your coffee, right? You put milk and sugar, which are simply, fat and sugar.
Yeah.
That's the idea behind butter. I think is also some sort of like health thing. But
Yeah. That's a lot.
Athletes are weird, man. That's all I'll say.
A lot of butter. Harry out in San Antonio, before we go into talking about Taylor Swift and the women's national team and the U17s and reffing down.
Hold on, John.
Yes.
Uh,
it's Harry about Jurgen being over asking the
okay.
question. It's Harry in San Antonio.
How did he move the group forward? What did we do in 2018, buddy? Is Jurgen taking credit for 20? What kind of Donald Trump bullshit is that?
There's the explicit rating.
Sorry, but like I'm saying, you're telling me that now we're better because we missed the World Cup in 2018? What? I mean, in theory, yes, but if that's how Jurgen made it better, because he sucked so bad as a coach that he lost to our two biggest rivals back to back, lost to Mexico at home. We do not lose to Mexico at home in qualifying. We haven't done that since before Alexi Lawless was playing soccer. What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Oh, good morning. Welcome to Monday.
Can we talk about Taylor Swift? Holy crap, y'all.
Yeah, sure. And so this is where we bring in Maddie, because I know that Maddie wants to talk about Taylor Swift. So for the record, in this segment, and so Harry's saying he pushed players over to Europe and not to stay in Major League Soccer.
And they still didn't get to the World Cup. What are we talking about? Those same players missed the World Cup.
Welcome to Mondays. All right. So here's the rundown for the rest of the Bart segment. We're going to bring in Maddie to talk about Taylor Swift because of what happened in the Roman numeral Classic last night. And Harry, by the way, you and Bart can have you guys can go and have massive conversations. I look forward to hearing who wins and supports. So we're going to talk about the Roman numeral Classic with you two. We're going to talk about the U.S. women's national team, the roster that came out without stealing all of the thunder about the new episode of Soccer for USPOD. We'll talk about the U17s, little reffing down here in a little Arsenal. So go talk Taylor Swift. Maddie, what's on your mind?
Listen, I'm one of like the few people who is a Swiftie who wanted the 49ers to win. I was pulling for the 49ers. It's not because of Taylor. It's literally just because I'm not a huge fan of Patrick Mahomes. I really am not. I like Brock Purdy personally better, and I thought that they had it all mapped out, and unfortunately we didn't get to see it. But I will say I didn't have a dog in the fight, so I really didn't care that much. I was just having a good time. And you know what? I got to see Mother, and that is Taylor Swift. So it was great. It was a great time,
I loved that they cut to her in the stadium chugging a beer. That was
listen,
impressive.
I saw that and I was like, you know what? I respect it.
It was so good.
She is one of us. It's like
one of us. She can slam a beer.
The back page of People magazine where they go shopping in grocery stores. They fill their own gas tank. She slammed a beer. That's literally what that was to me. The last page.
Goes cereal shopping at Publix. They're just like us.
Literally, that's the back page of People magazine these days for me. That Taylor Swift slammed a beer, and apparently Mark Richt has lost control of Robin Lively too. But I mean, for me, I've said this before. When it comes to, and I had the over under at cutaways at 4.5, and in the fourth quarter we finally cleared 4.5. I've said this before. It took a while, but when Kansas City's trailing, that's not germane to the conversation. And quoting Sheriff Buford T. Justice, Germans got nothing to do with it. All right. So when it comes to this particular relationship, we've seen celebrity, boyfriend, girlfriend before. To me, this is no different than that. Anyone who is wound up in their feelings about this needs to unwind themselves and maybe not watch football or anything. We never complained with Tom Brady and Giselle or Bridget Moynihan. We never complained with Derek Jeter and all of his list. We never complained with A-Rod and Jennifer Lopez. None of that ever happened. Basketball, I imagine it's out there somewhere. I don't watch basketball, so I don't know. But and Shakira and Gerard Piqué, and I'm still wondering what Gerard Piqué was thinking. We for anyone who's wound up about this kind of stuff, we don't get wound up in other sports. You got to look deep inside yourself and find out why you're really wound up in this situation about this particular thing. You have a highly successful woman and you have a star athlete together. Oh no, they're happy together. They're in love. They're in a relationship and they're perfectly fine with PDAs. Am I missing something here?
Listen, I firmly believe that it's all of these people. And listen, I'm going to get in my little soapbox for a second. It's totally because all of these guys, they sit there and they're like, why is this really successful woman being shown in apparently a sport that isn't allowed to have women be shown at all? That seems a little,
yes, 100%.
That seems a little weird to me because no one else has a problem with it. As far as I'm concerned, Stephen A said something about it. Stephen A literally was like, I don't see the issue. Why are y'all freaking out? Because truly, why? What is the issue? Why are y'all taking such a big offense if she's there supporting her boyfriend? Who cares? Who cares? It's no different than him going to see her at the Eras Tour. No different. Also, want to make it clear if NFL fans are like, I'm not going to watch anymore because she's being shown all the time. Do you want to know how many people or how many times it was talked about in the Super Bowl that it's bringing together families because of this? Fathers and daughters are watching football together.
All you got to do is look at Nick Khalifi and the Duchess making it on CBS this morning.
I'm like, listen, it's not that big of a deal. Anyone who sits there and is like, and is just sitting there like, why is she on screen? I'm like, maybe you should take a look at yourself and wonder why you're that upset. Maybe it's because you're just upset that they're showing a very strong and successful woman on the screen and you're a little jealous of that. And that's okay.
Yeah. And Tom Russo with the point. Take it all the way back to Jessica Simpson, Tony Romo. Hutch sold over $1 million in show and movie tickets last year. So last time I checked, she is quite the bankable talent. So all right, so that's Maddie's first chance into the show this morning. Maddie on the 1s and 2s, and so Maddie will be back in about 15 minutes to talk about Premier League. So Maddie, thanks a lot for hanging out.
Absolutely. Sorry for getting on my soapbox, but
nothing wrong with soapboxes. That's what the show's about, on Monday. So Maddie came in and wanted to discuss Taylor Swift, as we all should, on a soccer show on a Monday morning. All right, so without what was left on the cutting room floor, we're promoting the new Soccer for US POD that's coming out early this afternoon, like around lunchtime, perhaps. What was left on the cutting room floor that you didn't get the chance to discuss in Soccer for US POD?
So we obviously didn't get a chance to fully discuss the U17 women winning CONCACAF. They won that Sunday right before the Superb Owl kicked off.
Yes.
And I think that goes into this roster discussion that we've been having, not only on Soccer for Us, but on a lot of platforms where if you think talent was the issue with the failure down under, then you're blind. Because what we saw this past 2 weeks in
Toluca.
Toluca, thank you. I was like, one of the Mexican cities.
It was Toluca.
I almost said Tulum, but that's not it. That probably would have been a
vacation
for them.
That'd been a really cool.
Listen, y'all, they used to have the women's championships in Cancun. So, that was, I will say that as much as I'm glad they had the W Gold Cup, big and bad, I think if I were a player, a tournament in Cancun might be ideal. Yeah. But that was something that we didn't really get a chance to talk about. And it really does play into this roster discussion because there is a movement toward younger players for a lot of reasons. Obviously, we are at the tail end of the greatest generation to play for the U.S. women's national team, right? The team that won back-to-back World Cups, that made 3 World Cup finals in a row. They are kind of fully being phased out, right? We didn't see Kelly O'Hara. We didn't see Alex Morgan. Obviously, Pino and Ertz have retired. The remnants of that particular generation are Alyssa Nair, who, is hopefully just to back up this tournament. Nothing against her. It's just time to move on. And that moving on goes to younger players. And in this U17 tournament, there are a lot of young players who showed out very well. yes, we can identify that there are still some talent identification and development issues within U.S. soccer as a whole. We know this, right? But at the end of the day, U.S. soccer and the sport here in this country is still producing more women's talent than anywhere else in the world. There's a reason why NWSL is a very insular league and is, for my money, the second best league in the world. Definitely the most competitive league in the world. And what we just weren't able to talk about, because again, it hadn't happened, was, you've got Barcenas, Fuller, and Towns, and so many others who are really capturing their moment as great athletes, but we're seeing what happens when you give them just a little bit of like sophisticated soccer coaching and structure. And that's what I took away from this tournament the most, was how beautiful the team played and the combinations they were playing and the way that they were trying to pass the ball, not out of the back necessarily, but with each other, from fullbacks getting high, connecting with midfielders, connecting with forwards, running off of those passes, things that we just frankly did not see in 2023 in New Zealand. And that is the bright spot here.
When you look at that tournament, I mean, it was one of the. There were a couple of matches where it took the U.S. U17s a little while to get into the rhythm of the match, but then, especially in the final yesterday against ATLUTD, it was literally bang, bang, bang. 20 minutes in, 25 minutes in, you get that first one, and then all of a sudden you tilt the field, the pressure's coming, you get that second, you get that third, and it's out of reach.
And part of that, honestly, is just a credit to where women's football has come with CONCACAF in a long time, right? I mean, you watch the Haiti game in particular, that semifinal. It did take a while for them to get cooking because Haiti was, trying hard to be defensively resolute. They were trying hard to possess the ball. And so the U.S. was forced to defend high up the field and win the ball back. And that, yes, you can create turnovers and opportunities there, but it did take a while in a couple of games. But again, it's the cumulative effect of continual possession and continual knocking on the door, right? When the wolf is blowing at, if it's a straw house, it's going to fall over, obviously a lot easier. But eventually the wolf is able to blow down the door for most of these teams. And then when they do, it's just fully wide open. The Canada match was a great example of what happens when, yes, it takes actually, that was a really early goal. But what happens with sustained pressure is, these teams can't handle that. And again, when you have the talent and the athleticism that the U.S. has combined with a great tactical approach, it's going to be dangerous. And that's, again, the big takeaway here. And the hope for the future is we are seeing a better tactical approach on the women's side specifically.
One of the topics that I did not put in our pregame back and forth, and I don't know if you've put a whole lot of thought into this, the fact that we now have two Division I women's leagues. USL Super League got the Division I designation, and we're tracking down Amanda Vandervoort. Hopefully we can have her on the show in short order. But now you have two leagues in this country with D1 classification. There isn't a whole lot of crossover, which to me is fine. We've caught up with Christina Unkel and learned about the franchise down in Tampa Bay. That's a part of this whole thing. What did you think about something that the USL wasn't necessarily planning from the beginning, but they're like, sure, we're developing to this point, we'll apply, and now you have two D1 women's leagues now?
Well, I think regardless of the D1 status, we needed another legitimate professional league for women in this country, because I think USL, the W League, wasn't quite the fully fleshed out professional framework that we really needed to have a better ecosystem for women's soccer in this country, right? I like the fact that you're seeing a lot of USL clubs investing in the women's game. As they continue to invest in their academies, I'm hopeful that those academies are now starting to produce, women's players as well. Similar to the way that, that's something that NWSL is lacking, is the professional development academies with their clubs. So I like the fact that these are, way more tied to the USL clubs so they can, there's a lot more overlap of resource sharing. But from a Division I standpoint, I don't think this affects anything, honestly. I mean, I think the top players are going to go play in the NWSL because that's where the money is.
Yeah. I mean, it's been around longer. It has the
Right.
reputation. The NWSL said all the right things in the release.
Yes.
It's like, look, the more opportunities that folks have to play, the better it is for the growth of the game.
And that's exactly it.
And
again, we're talking legitimate professional clubs, right? This is not, no offense, the Atlanta Panthers. This is not, are we actually getting paid this week? Is the club coming back next year?
Yeah.
These are legitimate professional clubs with legitimate setups, many of whom have their own stadiums. Mm-hmm. So they're not even trying to, this new one in Spokane looks great. Lexington is building one. Tampa is obviously building their own on the waterfront, which looks great. Not technically their own, but their own in some sense.
They're helping. I think there's a school where
it's a little Greenville Triumph-y, but not a bad thing, And these are positives. And again, it's just another step in the right direction for the infrastructure and ecosystem of soccer in the U.S.
Soccer for U.S. PODs at Bartimus Prime 19. Bart Keeler hanging out with us on his normal Monday visit. And we're rolling through everything that I had in my mind, and hopefully Bart has an answer for, because that's why I ask him these things. Reffing down here this week, and I was watching, and this is kind of bleeding into the Premier League discussion coming up at the bottom of the hour with Maddie and Drew, and we'll get you to talk about your Arsenal mug and what happened. Knowing them, they probably got David Moyes fired, but that's just me. The handball rule. Mm-hmm. And this, once again, came into play in a couple of matches this past weekend in the Premier League. And there were individuals who are paid a fairly decent amount of money to discuss the sport on networks. And they were kvetching, as they normally would, about a situation being a handball, and they're all up in arms about it being a handball call. And my thought pattern normally is this: don't hate the player, hate the rule. It is not gravity's fault that something like this happened. Mm-hmm. It is with the straight up structure of the rule. So as a refresher, where the handball rule is concerned, can you please put your reffing shirt on and break down the current IFAB handball rule as it is in the books?
So the ideal of what we're trying to call for a handball is, does the ball hit your arm below the armpit area, which is a change that I'm not in super love with, because it definitely, to me, causes more problems than it should. But that is the gist of it, right? We also look for natural versus unnatural position, which is unfortunately a very subjective look. But with training, we understand that natural tends to mean outside of the frame of your body, or the natural motion of what your body would be doing. So if you're running, if you're falling to the ground, we've given some allowance for if you're falling, obviously we don't want you to fall flat on your face.
Yeah.
You can put your arm down. You can bolster yourself. Again, natural frame of the body, natural things that your body might be doing.
Okay.
That said, we're still trying to make sure we're not playing soccer with our hands, right?
Yes.
And that's the big thing that we're trying to avoid. Obviously, we understand that sometimes the ball hits your hand, but we don't want to have soccer being played with our arms or hand.
Right. And that was one of the things that it's like you're talking about gravity, and folks who are going down because of gravity, and their arms are in the air at the time, and like the body's falling, but the arms are in the air, and it hits, and it's a handball, and insert individual inside the box that we pay an incredible amount of money for every single month is like, oh, that's a horrible call. It's how is that a handball? This is natural motion and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I'm like, that's the rule. If you got a problem with it, fix the rule.
So think a couple years back to the LGP handball in Chicago.
Yeah.
That now would probably be not ruled a handball, especially with VAR, because body, arms on the ground, like it's just one of those things where we're allowing that particular play, and that's in our training as referees to allow stuff like that to go. Then there's the 2016 USA Colombia DeAndre Yedlin handball where he puts his arm up and his arm's up. As soon as your arm gets raised, that's when we're kind of triggered to go, yeah, that's a handball. And I know that seems a little unfair, but that's just how it is.
Yeah. Yeah. What'd you think of the idea of the blue card? You've already given us the explicit rating this morning. You may as well just go for it.
No, it's not an explicit. I just think it's one of those things where I do agree a little bit that we're trying to fix something that's not inherently broken. And the fix is that we just enforce the crowding to the referee much stricter. And like you said, give out yellow cards, because that is, and this is something that I do when I referee, is if I'm in the center and, there's a foul, well, I don't hand out yellow cards quite like that. But if there's a foul and, or something that the opponent does, it's like, and I'm on my way to go talk to this player, but then the other team crowds me. Well, now I'm dealing with them. And that's what I think players don't understand is once you crowd me, I have to deal with you, not the person who made the infringement. So let me go handle that instead of you coming up to me with your fingers and your hands and you're pleading and you're, all the things. And it's like, that's not going to help you because now you're in my way. And now my attention is on you. And I have to tell them, I say, would you let me handle the play, your opponent? Would you let me handle number 19? Would you let me handle this person first? Because now you're talking to me and now I want to bring my yellow cards out to card you. And they get really mad about this. And I'm like, but if you just let me handle that situation,
then we wouldn't be.
Then we're not in this position. You're not in this position.
We wouldn't be at the blackjack table if you let me do the job. But yeah, I've always thought that, and so and apparently there's such an uproar about the blue card now, which I don't think is necessary in the first place. But there is such an uproar. It was supposed to be in the lower divisions, lower cups, those kinds of things for your 12 months. Wales, I think, was going to try the blue card and all this kind of stuff. And now the blue card idea has been shelved until the furor and uproar has been replaced to a dull roar. And so,
which for the record, I don't have a problem with that inherently, right? Like we've seen that happen in MLS Next, where we institute some rule modifications to see how they go, right? So I don't have a problem in theory. The problem I do have is like a lot of those rules modifications have ended up becoming actual laws or actual rules that we follow. And so I think there's a difference between testing and actually taking data and just going, oh, let's introduce it so people get used to the idea.
All right, so you're going to be the tease for Prem and Proper, the review, coming up in a couple of minutes. Your mug that you like to show sometimes on Mondays, that one, yes, the Arsenal mug. You pulled out the whooping stick this past weekend, and now you're back to being even on goal difference, and you needed a number like that. 6 on the board. Folks at West Ham were leaving at the half, and they should have, and I'm sure that once again, all the angst, anger, and remorse about having David Moyes still as the head coach there at West Ham is still there. But you put up a big number this weekend. You needed it.
Yeah, we did. I mean, I think the frustrating part for me was watching this going, well, why couldn't we have done this back in December? Because, that was a game that you can't lose at home to West Ham. And though you do get the 3 points back, it's a little too late for that, especially when you're in a title race and needed to get at least 6, if not 4 from this team. But it was refreshing to see. It was fun. It was nice to not be nervous about a game for all 90 minutes, So that was fun.
You've won 4 in a row, and you've outscored your opponents. I'm doing math here. 16-2 in the last 4 matches.
Well, and I'm not entirely sure that we're going to catch Liverpool or even Man City when it comes to actual points. But the reality is that the title very well is looking to be decided by goal differential this season, even for Liverpool and Man City, the way that they're kind of so even with points. So being even with Man City and Liverpool on goal differential is helpful because we know that Man City is going to have those games where they score like 10 goals on someone for no good reason. And you need to be able to keep up with that at some sort of pace. So you need a big win.
No doubt about it. Yeah, you needed a big win. You got it. Next matches are going to be the ones where the folks at the top of the table beat up on group number 3. All right, so Soccer for US POD is going to be out around noon. Looking forward to that. Once again, as always, thanks for hanging out with us on Mondays and having us draw our explicit rating. And you enjoy Taylor Swift, enjoy your coffee. Just don't put any butter in it.
And don't believe that Jurgen Klinsmann is actually good at coaching soccer.
Thank you, Bart. We'll see you later as he enjoys his coffee. And Harry, that's why I love the Twitch pitch, because of the elevated discussion that goes on at times when it comes to topics. I'm glad that you're with us every single time that you get to join us in the mornings from San Antonio. It is 10:30, and that means one thing, and it means that Drew has found a conference room. Drew has actually found a conference room, and it is now time for Prim and Proper, the review. And look, the way that we always do things, for those of you that haven't had the chance to catch up with us here at Prim and Proper, the review, Prim and Proper is traditionally released on Fridays, and Maddie and I will discuss what we think about coming into the weekend. We'll look at the juice boxes, that on the Friday show in the 10:30 era, and then Drew will come in with a 3D. And then it will be a show, and we get to see what happens over the weekend. And now Maddie gets to talk about Newcastle, and Drew gets to talk about Manchester United. Ladies first. Maddie, Newcastle, what happened?
Listen, I'm happy we won. I'm so happy we won. Oh my gosh. Gimaraj is a phenomenal. Love him. Love him to no end. I will say the one thing that did make me mad is it was a 3-2 win, which is great, but it shouldn't have been a 3-2 win. It should not have been. We need to get better at defending. We're letting these balls slip through in the midfield, and we allowed Nottingham to get all the way up there to score. I mean, you can't let that happen. And I get it. You're at home. Well, let me retract that. Newcastle was playing away, which I understand that. That's fine. But still, you were arguably the better team. Why are you not defending in the midfield? Why are you allowing these sloppy passes to be made to then go up and lead to 2 goals? You were leading in the 10th minute, and you allowed them to come back twice to tie it up. That should not happen. Should not happen at all.
No, but you did get full points at City Ground. Nottingham Forest still hanging out at the bottom of the table, not quite in the relegation zone. And I want to draw, I mentioned Prim and Proper because of what happens in Prim and Proper when one of us that is currently in this segment decides to have a segment.
Spike Dudley to the right. Ridiculous.
So traditionally, it is the Drew Dickinson diatribe. And we always lead in with Joey Styles, because we love and appreciate wrestling play-by-play announcers of the past. And the Drew Dickinson diatribe this week said what, sir?
I said that Manchester United will beat Aston Villa away 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go ahead and give a little toot my horn real quick. Prediction.
All right, Arn Anderson, I see how this works.
I thought we were keeping the wrestling vibe going,
Nothing. No, you're not one to toot your own horn, but toot. Yes, Arn Anderson, double A with a 3D. Yes. So please continue, sir.
Let's be honest. It wasn't a pretty performance.
No.
Aston Villa sure as heck had their chances. Just the best game in a shirt for Andre Onana yesterday. One of the best games he's had, arguably kept United in the game with the saves and just the confidence of him coming out of the back. Losing Luke Shaw hurt. They got to figure out a way to button up that left back spot in the summer. It's clear when Shaw and Martinez are both healthy, the team is just so much better. And for gosh sakes, Victor Lindelof should never see the left back position ever again. I was living on the edge of wish I was living on the edge of a lightning bolt, but I wasn't. I was like a spaghetti noodle. I was so nervous. But Eric Ten Hag figured out how to play Scott McTominay, and that's come on when you need him the most in the last 15 minutes of the game to finish it off. And John, I've noticed that you've taken up the nickname as well, the McTominator. I mean, he deserves it. That's his name. But not a pretty performance, but a much needed win, much deserved 3 points. Nonetheless, no matter how it played out, a loss yesterday to Aston Villa would have been an 11-point separation from 6th to 5th place. The win yesterday now has United 5 points off the top 5, and the top 6 is separated by 13 points. What a title race. What a title race.
Final scores from the weekend for those that might have missed it. Maddie mentioned Newcastle's 3-2 craziness at the City Ground. Brentford shocks Wolves 2-0. They found some offense, but of course, when Ivan Toney's now back as a part of your offense, that's a big help. Spurs beat Brighton 2-1 in your standard bit of crazy. The shock of the weekend, I think, came at the bottom of the table. Sheffield United over Luton Town at the Kenny 3-1. Yep. Liverpool over Burnley 3-1. Fulham over Bournemouth 3-1. And you mentioned 2-1, and we mentioned Bart's 6-0. And that brings us into the conversation from one of our resident Evertonians. But first off, Alex mentions, Maddie, at some point, watch the movie We Are the Geordies.
I have been meaning to watch it because I have like a list of like sports things I need to watch. Mm-hmm. That's on it. I also still need to watch Welcome to Wrexham season 2. Have not watched that one yet. Only seen the first season. And just so many other ones. Like I love watching all that stuff. So when I watch it, Alex, I will let you know. I have been meaning to watch it though. I've been meaning to sit down and do it.
And another one you need to add to your stacks is the Sunderland series, especially season 1.
Yes.
Sunderland Till We Die. That definitely was season 1 was amazing in that. All right, so one of our resident Evertonians, Tom Russo, the Airborne DJ. The early Saturday morning, you had the Corruption Cup, Manchester City and Everton. So Tom says the commentators pointed out at one point that Jack Grealish, who was on the bench for City, cost more than the entire Everton starting 11. Think about that. Then think about the fact that Everton are the ones being punished. Corruption of the highest order. The only thing missing is Tom waving his finger in the air, or perhaps like Nikita Khrushchev, taking off his shoe and banging it on the table like he did at the United Nations in the early 1960s. So yes, it was a very early morning for Tom and Everton. But once again, Drew, it took a little while for Manchester City, and Pep has said that, with teams in all these multiple competitions, to get the early Saturday morning slot, the 12:30 there, 7:30 in the morning here, that ain't beneficial to competition. And it took Manchester City a while, but they got the engine warm and then they got the win.
Yeah, I mean, I think just about a month ago we were talking about who the MVP of the season is. Right at Christmas break, right before Boxing Day, and I mentioned he hasn't played in a month and he still leads the league in goals. Erling Haaland. They are a different team. The confidence level of the attack is it's night and day, and not to mention KDB is now getting more minutes. So all I have to say is for the rest of the league, look out. That the pep that they needed in their step, they have found in the last 15 minutes of that game. And I think I mentioned a few minutes ago the title race. There's 13 points separating 6 teams. Well, get your popcorn ready because it is going to be a fun end of the season coming up, especially with City coming back into the fold.
No doubt about it. Some other interesting things in the news this morning. West Ham delay a David Moyes contract talk after the Arsenal thrashing once again. Maddie, I can't say that I'm surprised because the relationship with David Moyes, on again, off again, hot, cold. Do we keep him? Do we fire him? Hey, he won Europa Conference League, which is like winning the CBI. It's not even like winning the NIT of soccer. Literally, it's like winning the CIT or the CBI. They keep him. And then, of course, as we talked about with Bart, the Arsenal took out the whooping stick, and David Moyes continues to be the hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. Is he or isn't he? It's like he's like the duck in the shooting gallery, at the amusement park that's always rigged. Yeah, it's like you hit him, he changes direction. You hit him, he changes direction. So when you look at the other scores from the weekend, what else stuck out to you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not shocked that he is in talks to, get out there.
They're not. It's like we've got this contract. We'll put it over here.
Like, okay, it's like they're like gonna throw it out and be like, "Where'd it go?" I'm sorry. Bye.
It was here a second ago. I don't know what happened.
I don't know what happened. It just disappeared. Like, that doesn't shock me. I mean, it's a 6-0. Like, come on, it's bad. It was really bad. I remember I didn't get the chance to watch it. But I remember I kept like looking at the thing and it just kept going up and up and up. And I was like, Arsenal, come on. I'm like, you're winning the game. You don't need to do this.
Yeah, you
They
do.
were going nuts.
Yeah, you do.
They should. Yeah, I mean, Man United and Villa was definitely one that really stuck out to me a lot just because of I thought that'd be a really good matchup. I figured it was going to be a very close game. So that one was a lot of fun to watch. And then we talked about it, Luton Town, Sheffield United. That one was a shock.
Mm-hmm.
Shock. But Sheffield United won a game. I'm so proud of them.
We're happy for you, Sheffield United.
I'm so proud of them. You know, they've been through it, and you know what? I'm proud of them.
Yeah.
They pulled out a win.
No doubt. Our friends over at Talk Sport, Drew, say that David Moyes' future as West Ham manager is in freshed out. According to our friends at Talk Sport, he was supposed to sign a 2.5-year deal back in December after winning the European version of the CIT or the CBI, and so now, according to Talk Sport owner David Sullivan, now less certain about keeping him beyond the end of the season. Currently in a 7-match winless run in all comps after the 6-0 loss. Sullivan is also said to be concerned by growing negativity towards Moyes from Hammer fans. Well, when you leave at halftime, I mean, obviously, duh. But so not a surprise. One other topic, Drew, before you go, that we kind of got into.
Can I say one thing about Moyes real quick?
Yes, you can.
I don't want to interrupt you. I'm sorry about that, but I just want to say one thing. Remember, they've got $100 million in the bank from Declan Rice. And they have, on paper, they have a very promising squad. Like they really, really do. And with that money to play with all of these phenomenal coaches out there who would want to come live in London and coach West Ham, I'm with Maddie. It doesn't surprise me one bit that they're looking to move on. What a great analogy with the duck at the carnival. I mean, it's just spot on about David Moyes. But that's all I had to say about that. Continue, sir.
The one topic we didn't get the chance to catch up with you about last week was the idea that your new owners, Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos, have a bold plan for Old Trafford to become the Wembley of the North. The Wembley of the North.
You see that flag right there?
Yes, the Republic of Manchunia.
Manchunia. They let's just put it this way. When you think of Manchester United, besides phenomenal winning and all of that, what's one of the first things you think of?
Old Trafford.
What's the DNA of Manchester United?
Old Trafford.
I mean, look, it sounds sexy, you know, the Wembley of the North. I get it, but I'm 100% against it. Absolutely not. There's ways around destroying. I never thought that this conversation would come up. You know, there's, you know, just like, you know, they found some golf courses, you know, nearby to start a new training ground, which is great. You know, Carrington, you know, go listen to Ronaldo on his rant last year. The same whirlpool is still inside Carrington that he sat in 2009. So let's start with stuff like that.
And his abs are still the same as they were in 2009. I mean, what's his point?
Exactly. I'm completely against it. Like I said, it's really hard to put into words, especially being inside the place. I've been there. I've been inside Old Trafford 3 or 4 times, and it's a sanctuary. It is.
But it's
kind of
old, dude. They've got to fix the infrastructure.
No. Listen, I get it. I mean, look at Liverpool. Look what they've done with Anfield. They didn't destroy it. You know, look how Georgia helps. You know, the west end zone of Sanford Stadium. You know, 10,000 more. I mean, it's doable. But again, this is Sir Jim's new shiny toy, and it seems like he's itching to spend money. My opinion, let's get some players in first. Let's start winning before we start to develop look at Tottenham. They've got $1 billion stadium that nobody wants to go to. So.
And they don't have a corporate sponsor attached to it either.
Where it's going to be the Snapdragon Old Trafford Stadium, you know? That doesn't sound hot at all. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen. It's just something fun to talk about. But, you know, like I say at the end of my rants on the 3D, when more information comes out about that, I'm sure we'll let you know. What do you think, John? What's your opinion on that?
It's all right. So let's think cost benefit analysis here. And Maddie, you can follow up with this too, because I know that this is Drew's last thing because he's got a jet. Infrastructure. Do you fix the infrastructure of? Do you literally? All right. So think of it this way. You've got this amazing idea for a dessert.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the filling at the top of the bowl and you're going, okay, this is a good start. You know, we got some sugar topping here. You know, maybe it'll taste a little different. What do we do on the inside? And then the question is, what do you do for the filling for the dessert? And right now, the filling for the dessert, being Old Trafford, is looking like it's right at its expiration date. And it's like, do I really want to taste nasty fruit that should have been in the fridge? It should have been thrown in the garbage in the fridge a week ago. Or do I try to make a nice looking dessert with some food that's on the dissipation list that might make me sick? I mean, where are you going to spend your money? Do you spend your money on building a new barn? Or do you sit there and fix the dessert and try to sit there and it's like, okay, look, just focus on the topping for a second. I'm going to swap out what it looks like. It won't be like a 3-berry surprise. It'll be a dump cake instead. I mean, what do you do here?
Yeah, I agree. I agree with John. I agree with John 100% because at this point, yes, you need to focus a lot more on developing all those players and getting more players and trying to win. But at what point do you kind of look at the stadium and go, okay, something needs to change? And yeah, I was a bit confused why they were doing it first too, but after kind of looking more into it, it makes more sense.
Yankee Stadium, Drew's the same way. The old Yankee Stadium, it was Yankee Stadium, but it was old Yankee Stadium, and it needed to be, it needed to be fixed. New Yankee Stadium, I get it, bells and whistles, blah, 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 I know. It's not the same, even though it may have the same name. I understand where Maddie's coming from here.
It's like trying to choose one of your favorite children. I can't bring myself to make that decision. And I'm so glad that I'm not having to make it because I couldn't do it. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things you can't do it. You hear the horror stories of, like you said, leaks when it's not raining.
Mm-hmm.
Just a few months ago, a piece of brick fell down from a piece of the infrastructure and almost hit a patron, which could have been an unbelievable lawsuit waiting to happen. You could just tore the stadium down then because it was going to be gone if that happened. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I just, if it's going to have to be like pulling the Band-Aid off. If it's going to happen, just do it,
Okay.
Just do it. I personally feel that the training ground, and let's start small. Let's start small, sort out the bigger issues. And because honestly, they're still putting 75,000 in the stadium, whether or not there is a leak in it or not. So I still think that there's some other things to be done. If there is a new stadium built, where is it going to go? Are you going to tear down Old Trafford and build on top and call it New Trafford? What are you going to do? So
I think what you got to do is you've got to go over to where the rail lines at the rail yard off to the side, and you've got to buy that space, and you've got to buy into that space and build it. While like with White Hart Lane, they were still playing at White Hart Lane, but they were still building the new facility that still doesn't have a corporate sponsor. So I think that right now with the land that you currently own, it won't fit. But I think if you buy into the rail yard, for those that want to look at Google Maps and see what I'm talking about, basically you'd be going to the west a little bit.
Yeah.
You can't go over the canals and you can't go into the rail line. So you've got to go into the rail yard to do it if you're going to do it.
It's obviously I'm against, tearing down Old Trafford, but I do have to say this. It's very refreshing having somebody come into the club with ideas, with ambition. You know, the worthless owners, you know, their only thing that their ambition is to take money out of the club. And Jim's already been here for what is it? Not even 2 months, and the ambition to build a new stadium, calling it the Wembley of the North. He's already got his eye on 2 golf courses to transfer over Carrington to a new beautiful facility. It's more.
Mhm.
It's more than the Glazers have done for the club since they've been here in 05. You know, it's now, Jim, now if you want to start to impress fans even more, you got to hit the transfer market and you got to hit it really, really good. That's my first test. I agreed with no moves in January. You know, with all the guys coming back from injury, they're like new signings. The summer is going to be key to Ten Hag's next season and Jim's first summer as an owner. What's his ambition like in the transfer market? What's his ambition like wanting to bring in high profile targets? And that's where I'm focused on right now.
All right. And I know that you turn into a pumpkin, and I don't want you to get like anybody mad at you. So we'll catch up with you again with another 3D on Prim and Proper on Friday, sir.
All right. Have a good week, y'all.
That's Drew. And so Drew's a very happy man with the McTominator getting the game-winning goal in the 86th. You know, so we got to do it again. Here we go. So you have to end the segment. You have to end the segment the right way with Drew. You have to. It's the whole bookending thing. Is that what we got to do? So Drew's back into the real world. Maddie's going to hang out here for the remainder of the show and anything else that's on her mind as we go over the odds and ends and everything. Great story in AFCON, Ivory Coast. The home nation won over the weekend, and you wonder. I mean, this is a team that finished third in group. They were third in group. They sacked their manager while they were in the group stage. Had the interim come in. They had the substitute teacher come in, and they won the whole tournament yesterday. So my question is, all right, so you know how like at the end of you know, when you win things, you know, you get medals. Like at the end of a tournament, you get the big procession and everybody's winning medals and everything. And then whoever's the head of the particular organization, you get the handshake and they put the medal over your head, and then you walk down the line before everybody does the woo and the confetti and the serpentina. I wonder if the dude that got sacked is going to get a medal, considering that he was there for the beginning of it, still got sacked, and the team won the tournament. Does dude still get a medal? Would they even sit there, if you're the Ivory Coast, you sit there and go, we ain't giving that dude nothing? Or do you have to sit there and play nice and go, well, yes, you were the manager at the beginning of the tournament. You were on our roster as a part of the administration. Or is it like in the Olympics where if you win a medal, like in baseball, the baseball team gets the medals? Tommy Lasorda didn't get a medal as the manager of the Olympic team. I'm wondering if it's something like that even. But still, if you're the dude that got sacked, would you get a medal out of the deal?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I would think because he got sacked. No, like, I don't think he would, just because like he was let go. He was let go and someone else stepped up and did the rest of it. You know, I always say, like, group stages, yes, they build a foundation, but really once you get past the group stages, the other rounds are what matter the most.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got them through the group stage. That's great. They were third in the group stage. It's not like they were first in the group stage. It's not like they had that set going through. You got sacked. So no, I don't think you get a medal personally. I don't think you.
And Michael Valverde, or four-card, Michael Valverde on Manchester City, he says, yeah, it's sad, but likely that they'll get the championship again in the Premier League. Their second 11 could make top 4 without a starter. True. Four-card says, no, you don't get a medal. You got fired. He sucked and almost cost the team their medals. They were the last best third-place team and lost 4-0. So four-card is of the mind is that you get nothing and like it, Spalding.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I just, like, you don't get a medal for that. And, like, if that's something that, like, I would hope that he wouldn't even attempt to, like, be like, hey.
No, it was like, hey, what about me?
Where's mine? Hey.
Hey, you know.
I'm like,
hey,
no.
Hey.
They'd be like, no, absolutely not. But I think it's pretty cool that an interim coach, went in there and was able to do it. That's awesome. I love stories like that. That's it.
Yeah, it was very, very cool to watch both watch both AFCON and watch the Asia Cup, and to have the home teams win those tournaments. For those of you that have a subscription to the Athletic did a really nice deep dive into the build of the stadia in the Ivory Coast and how it's tied to the Chinese government and Chinese construction firms and all those kinds of things. So that's definitely something that is the requested reading of the day when it comes to how things are over in AFCON. Other element, Ian Hockey over at the Times. Headline, Andres Villas-Boas subjected to threats in his bid to run Porto. Former Spurs and Chelsea head coach given a bumpy ride by supporters of 86-year-old Jorge Nuno Pinto da Costa, whose reign began back in 1982. And so folks are sharing concerns about his age. And so the incumbent will be seeking his 16th successive mandate in April to extend perhaps into his 90th year. A reign that began in 1982, and it might continue utterly transformative. And so before Pinto da Costa, Porto had won 4 league titles in 40 years. In his presidency, won 2 European Cups, the 04 under Mourinho, the only Champions League claimed by a club outside Spain, England, Germany, or Italy this millennium. Legacy that's taken Pinto da Costa through several elections unopposed. And so now Villas-Boas is running for the gig, and folks are like, even though you are like half his age, we don't like it. Last week, ahead of Villas-Boas presenting the financial program for his proposed presidency, it was reported his campaign office had been vandalized. The word traitor had been sprayed on the walls of AVB's home, and in November, an employee at the complex he lives in was assaulted. Events around Porto's fevered annual meeting that month are subject to an investigation. Public prosecutors allege ultras loyal to Pinto da Costa distributed membership cards to non-members to attend the meeting and created a fiercely hostile atmosphere, including physical threats, assaults, and intimidating chants, such as, if you're not with Pinto da Costa, you die, and Villas-Boas, get out or else. 12 arrests at the AGM, where proposed alterations to the voting procedures for the presidential election had been on the agenda. So if you are into intrigue and palace intrigue, once again, requested reading of the day. There's your story at the Times. 4-card. AFCON teams need to trust their own country's coaches. Look at Senegal, Morocco, and now Ivory Coast. Absolutely. Once in 4-card, what I like to do is one of my favorite books is The Art of War by Sun Tzu. And I think that everyone should have a copy of that book in their library because it applies to more than just war. It applies to business. It applies to the everyday. It applies to how you can handle yourself in the public sphere. And one of my favorite quotes by Sun Tzu in that book, trust the local guides for they know the terrain. And you see what happens there, once again, 4-card, AFCON. So the art of war happens in AFCON once again, Senegal, Morocco, and Ivory Coast. Very, very busy week for us before we get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo and what to do later today. Tomorrow, Clarkston and McIntosh, Tuesday night throwdown on SDH. That's on at 6 o'clock. And that's our first visit to McIntosh here in 2024. On Friday, actually, it's a very, very busy week because on what's the 15th? Thursday. I get my calendar out. Thursday on the network, it is JL Man from South Carolina at Johns Creek, doubleheader at Johns Creek, and then Friday, very, very busy day across the network because we're going to be in 2 places at once. 2 places at once, not 1 but 2. 2 different locations, 2 different states at the same time. It is the blast-off battle, day 1. I'll be in Huntsville calling those 2 matches with Tormenta, Chattanooga FC, and UAH and Huntsville City Football Club. That'll be on the network. And also going on at the same time, Chapel Hill and Alexander for the Friday SDH Game of the Week. So very, very busy week. Looking forward to that. So Maddie has been incredibly busy. What are your plans this week for In Session?
Fun stuff. I mean, I got some interviews with both the winning coaches back when we did River Ridge and Roswell. We have Mary Adizing, the head coach for Roswell girls, after their win against Peachtree Ridge at Peachtree Ridge. We also have Coach Thomas for River Ridge after the boys beat Roswell 4-1. I got that right? 4-1?
Was it 4?
It was 4.
Okay, so then
4. 3 and then an own goal, right?
Okay, yeah. So let's say it was a win for River Ridge. You got to catch up with
yes, I got to catch up with them. So those will be included on Soccer is in Session. Hopefully, obviously, we will have the game tomorrow. Gonna try and get some coaches' thoughts from there. We'll see what happens over there and give you a bit of a preview of what to expect for the rest of the time. So be on the lookout for both of those.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a fun week all the way across the board. We're gonna catch up with our friends at Chattanooga FC and catch up with our friends at Tormenta. Wednesday, we are going to release the preview for Blastoff Battle. We catch up with Jonathan Bolaños from Hunt City, and we catch up with Kieran Rowe, one of the rising seniors for UAH. And we're going to catch up with some folks at Tormenta. I think Ian Cameron will be who we catch up with, the head coach at Tormenta, and waiting probably Rod Underwood, perhaps, and a player on the Blastoff Battle preview show. That's going to be out Monday night, I believe, if not Thursday morning. That'll preview the Blastoff Battle that's going to happen Friday and Sunday. All 4 of those matches on the SDH network, and it's going to be fun to be up there in Huntsville for that. It's going to be a great kickoff to our season on the professional side as well. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Let's go there, and let's see if anybody is gossiping, rumor mongering, or if there's any kind of innuendo whatsoever about transfers or anything. Because remember, there are still some windows open in some other countries. You know, the European theater, they closed. Turkey was open until, I think, today and on the weekend. And so there are still some windows in some other countries in Eastern Europe that are still open. Here's the latest. Arsenal and Chelsea among the clubs to have scouted Athletic Bilbao winger Nico Williams. 21-year-old seen as an ideal fit for the Premier League. That's from Fabrizio Romano, Tier 1 source. Manchester United, City, and Chelsea all interested in signing Kaoru Mitoma from Brighton. Good luck getting him from Brighton, but of course we all know everyone has a price. Just ask Ted DiBiase. PSG striker Kylian Mbappe has yet to agree terms to join Real Madrid when his contract expires, as they struggle to negotiate with the France international's mother and agent, Faiza Lamari. So mom's the one in charge of the negotiation with Real Madrid and Kylian Mbappe. That's an interesting one.
You know what? And honestly, I think she could do a great job. Mothers are great.
Yeah, mothers are always looking out for sons. I mean, the thing is that mom's the agent. Definitely keeping an eye on that. Carlo Ancelotti's hinted the team do not need Mbappe, as they already have, quote, the best 6 players in the world. It's from our friends at Goal. Wolves' Pedro Neto expected to attract bids this summer with Liverpool and Arsenal interested. Bayer Leverkusen sporting director Simon Rolfs believes Xabi Alonso will remain at the club next season, despite him being linked to replacing Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool. AC Milan wonder kid Francesco Camarda was going to sign his first professional contract with the Rossoneri when he turned 16, despite interest from Manchester City and Borussia Dortmund. Newcastle contemplating signing Bournemouth defender Lloyd Kelly this summer. 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Barca have no intention of letting Ferran Torres leave the club in the summer. Jose Mourinho is ready to take over as Bayern Munich manager if the club decide to sack Thomas Tuchel. That's from our friends at Build. Once again, Build likes to stir things up. Liverpool set to offer Trent Alexander-Arnold a new long-term deal, monitoring Fulham defender Tosin Adarabioyo for a potential move, also 4-letter paper. Sheffield Wednesday looking to make a bid for Duncan Maguire if they're not relegated this season. So the Duncan Maguire sweepstakes continues, because Sheffield United was the other club that was not named Blackburn that was chasing after him while he was in the hotel in Sheffield waiting for an answer from Blackburn when he got the answer, and then when the answer got taken back. So that's where we are. And Duncan McGuire is heading back to this side of the planet, and so he's probably going to be here until the summer window. Going to be an interesting squeezing in of personnel, and I don't know how all of this stuff's going to fit with the stuff that Orlando did in the window in January, and now you're getting Duncan McGuire back. It's like, well, what do you do? It's like, it's like that Duncan.
Honestly.
Great to have you back, but bruh, maybe.
Hey, sorry the deal didn't go through. You're gonna be on the bench more than likely. Have fun.
Yeah, so we'll see. It's like you can hang out for a while, so we'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting training camp.
Yeah, literally.
With Duncan McGuire and the purple team. Turkey and Lille midfielder Yusuf Yazicki has interest from several European clubs, likely to leave the French club when his contract runs out this summer. And Javier Tebas says that Lionel Messi was close to returning to his boyhood club Barcelona last summer. Sure he was. Absolutely. Sure he was, Javier Tebas. Absolutely. Yeah, sure. And Del, this was the fun part. Del, I heard another MLS team was asking about Duncan McGuire. Correct.
Don't
know who it was, but apparently, while Duncan McGuire was in soccer purgatory, someone put in an offer for Duncan McGuire with the agent, apparently. So it's like they were waiting it's like, okay, so ain't nothing happening. Does he have a club? Fine. We'll make an offer. So somebody was ready to jump in before he ended up going back to Orlando. Someone was right there. In that Blackburn, Sheffield Wednesday nether region, somebody from Major League Soccer was trying to jump in on that, as the deal was in flux. You got to give the team credit, whoever it was, to keeping an eye out for Duncan McGuire and probably getting more playing time than he'd have with the purple team. I'll tell you that.
I wonder who it was. Like, I'm trying to think who would, like, I mean, a couple teams do need someone like Duncan in their squad, but I'm like just trying to think who would do it. Like, I swear, I don't know why my first initial thing was when I saw it was I swear to you, and I don't know where I saw it. So this is very unofficially unofficial. So don't take my word for this. I swear I saw it linked to Nashville.
Okay.
But that also could have easily been me scrolling through Twitter and I saw it and then back up. My memory is being weird like a goldfish. So don't take my word for it.
Yeah. No, so we won't take your word for it, but no, you saw something, and that's a good thing. Remember, Champions League knockouts start again this week, and that starts tomorrow. We'll get into juice boxes and everything. Manchester City is involved in the action this week, so we'll keep an eye on all of that. Now, what to watch, where to watch it before we wrap up and send everybody on their merry way. Let's see. So our friends at Soccer America, and if you have the spare coinage and can get things that can help you out when it comes to keeping an eye on things, I would recommend Jeff Kassouf and what he does with all of his work. If you're looking for stuff in the women's game, Soccer America is always a great resource today. BN has a Turkish Super League, BN and Espanyol at noon, Kayserispor and Besiktas. And if you don't have BN, you can get it at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here, and you will end up getting Fanatis. With Fanatis, you'll get all the BNs, you'll get the Brasileiro, you'll get Peru, you will get CDO for the fans, Teise, Nuestra Tele, a lot of action. You'll get, like I said, you'll get the Brasileiro, all the regional Brazilian competitions as well. fntz.co/soccer down here. Crystal Palace and Chelsea. If you really have nothing else to do at 3 o'clock, it's on USA Network. ESPN Deportes says Almeria and Athletic Club at 3 o'clock. Gold TV has the Portuguese Primera at 3:15. Universo is your simulcast for the Prem. The Zone has the German Frauen-Bundesliga at 1:30. ESPN Plus has your simulcast of La Liga Serie A at 2:45 on Golazo and Paramount Plus. Juve and Udinese. Argentine Copa de la Liga is at 5 and 7. Instituto and Talleres Cordoba. And Newell's and Racing Club. Newell's is getting ready for their matchup this weekend in DRV-PNK in Fort Lauderdale, going up against Messi and friends. So we'll see what happens there. Oh, Dell says, I'm sure his agent had feelers out during the unknown. Absolutely. How did I do in fantasy? Let me check really quickly before we go. And so, yes, Maddie is definitely going to sit there and try and figure out how we're going to do fantasy next year, because she is deathly interested in beating the pants off of all of us in an organized league. Dell, I had 70 points And that put me in the 1.8 million percentile of the 10.6 million that play. So I guess top. So I was a B-plus player last week. Captained Holland, had Douglas Luiz, and let's see, had participation pretty much from everybody else: Fabian Schär, Kieran Trippier, and Ben White. So yes, I did not start Alphonse Areola. Thank God I didn't do that. So yeah, 70 points above the league average, and I am now in the top 30% worldwide after a B-plus week in the world. So that's where we are with that. So Maddie, any other thoughts before we go?
Just one pretty cool thing I'll leave. It's a little fun little story I found. Thank you to Men in Blazers for finding this out on Twitter. So Harrison Butler played high school soccer at Westminster High School in Atlanta.
Yeah.
He was responsible.
The Westminster School, for those of us, yes.
Yep.
Not a Westminster school, but the Westminster School.
Yes. He was responsible for 13 of the Chiefs' 19 points in regulation. And yeah, so he was a football, proper football, to then go to American football. So that's kind of cool.
Yes. And so there were two players from the Westminster School that got Super Bowl rings. Butker gets his third, and there was another player that picked up his first. Trying to think. Oh, Mecole Hardman, the pride of Elbert County High School. Elbert County Blue Devils. Bowman, Georgia. If you are going from, say, Athens to Macon, then there's no and then I'm saying the most direct route, going from Athens to Macon, for those of you who are in this footprint. They don't send you down 316 and send you down the interstate. What they do is they send you through, they get you out the back way of Athens. You go down some 2-lane roads, and you go through Mecole Hardman's hometown of Bowman. And Bowman literally is in the middle of nowhere. It is no stoplight. It is stop signs. It is train tracks. You cross over the train tracks, you make a right-hand turn, and you are out of Bowman. But Mecole Hardman, the pride of Elbert County High School, the guy who blacked out catching the game-winning touchdown pass, he is also, once again, winner of a Super Bowl ring. Started the year with the New York Jets. Didn't play. They waived him. Kansas City was like, come on back. And so what does he do? He catches the game-winning touchdown pass in overtime. So 3 Georgia players get Super Bowl rings, 2 from the Westminster School and 1 from Elbert County High in Elberton. So
I guess this just leaves one thing.
What?
I guess Atlanta really does influence everything.
Absolutely.
I brought the world to the A. So
the state of Georgia. There he is. So A-Town down from Maddie, who is Maddie Cruz on the 1s and 2s. As always, Maddie, thanks for all the work that you do behind the scenes to make this sing, as it always does here in the mornings. Tomorrow we'll be back at it again, 9:05, to discuss stuff. That's the official title. We're going to be catching up after the show tomorrow with our friends from Chattanooga and Tormenta, getting you ready for Blast-Off Battle. Tomorrow night, once again, Clarkston McIntosh down in Peachtree City here. Busy week on the network, 4 chances to catch live games, and you will have multiple devices working, multiple channels working on Friday, because we'll be in Huntsville and we'll be at Alexander. So for Maddie, let me see if I can remember everybody. For Jarrett, for Abe Gordon, Garrett Chapman from 92.9 The Game. Great to have them on in the mornings. We'll have them at 9:15 every Monday morning to break down everything that's going on. Yeah, Dell, it is going to be SDH the Ocho, or it's SDH Prep or something like that. It's going to be SDH 1, SDH 2. That much we do know. So for Abe Gordon, Garrett Chapman, 92.9 The Game. For Jared, who popped in. For Bartimus Prime 19, Bart Keeler, and the Soccer for You SPOD. And for Maddie Cruz on the 1s and 2s, I'm just John. Thanks for hanging out with us for another go-round of soccer down here. Back at it again, 9:05. Thanks to everybody in the Twitch pitch who comes in every single day for fantastic conversation, elevated voices, and great banter as we go. So we'll be back at it again, 9:05 tomorrow morning. For everybody here, to you out there, play it safe, everybody. Mucha plot, y'all. And since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this. If I can find the close. You sit there and you tease everything and you don't find the close in time. Now I found it. Time to go.